Commodity markets are notoriously variable. There are a lot of things that affect them, and they can go in a lot of different ways. But this is basically what the administration has honed in on as one thing that they can do that they're hoping will have a result. Put more oil on the markets and hope it results in lower prices.
Now, we're releasing 50 million barrels. The other countries, we're looking at China, India, Japan, South Korea, and the UK. I guess together they're going to be putting out 65 to 70 million barrels. So, we're putting out the majority of it.
That's right. One of the wrinkles here is that we don't exactly know what a lot of these other countries are going to do. India and the United Kingdom are the only two that have made formal announcements, and combined they're going to put about 6.5 million barrels of oil on the market. China has not said what it's going to do. But the U.S. is the leading producer and consumer of oil in the world, both, so it gives it a large market share that has an especially large reserve compared to what other strategic government reserves exist in the world. And as I mentioned, the political concerns for the Biden administration are very intense here, so they've been at the center of this effort. It's been some of Biden's top advisors who've been working diplomatic channels around the world to get other countries working with it to put all this oil out there. Like I said, there are a lot of uncertainties around whether it will have an effect. So the thinking is, well, one way you can at least try to make sure that it does have an effect on markets is get more countries to do it with you. But again, we'll see if it works.
You're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition on Kfi Am 640 and everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation about releasing oil from our strategic reserves to fight high gas prices.
Sometimes, love can be deadly. The Crazy in Love podcast digs into real-life stories of relationships that took a gruesome turn. Each week, explore a new case about murder in the name of love.
She was obsessed. She was a stalker. She wouldn't take no for an answer.
Overkill is an outward manifestation of the highest level of anger a human being can actually achieve.
Listen to Crazy in Love on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo.
At Uline, they know going the extra mile takes hard work. For companies pushing to go further, Uline will go the distance with you. 24/7, they answer the phone to get you the shipping and industrial supplies you need. Business can move fast. Unexpected large orders, adverse weather, new safety guidelines, and changing economic trends. Uline works hard keeping 38,000 items ready to ship, minimizing detours on your way to the extra mile. Visit uline.com.
Research shows that when a parent consistently responds to an infant's needs, a trusting relationship and lifelong attachment develops. Babies who are held and comforted when they need it during the first 6 months of life tend to be more secure and confident as toddlers and older children. This is just one of the reasons why California's paid family leave program provides partial wage replacement benefits to California workers who take time off from work to bond with a new child.
This is your moment. The moment to perfect the delicate art of swaddling. The moment for bonding time, family time, and a little tummy time. The moment to remember that these are the moments that matter. If you're a new mother welcoming a baby into your family, paid family leave can provide you up to 8 weeks of partial wage replacement. This is your moment. Take it. To learn more, visit CaliforniaPaidFamilyLeave.com. Moments matter.
Contractor license 1047-781. Hey, Kenny Winnie, what Rick told us is pretty cool.
It's Ken. You know it's Ken. I need to hear you say Ken.
Rick runs Gettle Academy, where we train plumbers and AC techs.
Rick told me something that made me so happy I had to wipe tears off my cheeks.
A student said, I knew working at Gettle was going to be a great opportunity, but I didn't know it was going to change my life.
That's what it's all about, Wacky Zacky.
When you work at Gettle, you know you matter.
You know you're making a difference.
Your customers and your coworkers love to see you coming,
and they miss you when you're gone.
Other companies expect you to upsell the customer.
But Gettle Techs have only one job. Make the customer happy they call us and trust us to fix their problem.
Ken sits down with all the new people once a month and talks about the future, and answers all their questions, and learns all their names.
I sit down with everybody once a month just to hear what's on their mind.
Come to work for Gettle. GOE-TTL.
You'll be happier than you've ever been.
Yeah,
Yes, I know. I have a calming demeanor. You know, when it's your job, basically, to push people beyond their comfort zones, it's good to make them feel as safe as possible. Like an open-heart surgeon for your home. You'll do fine. No worries. We got it.
Home with Dean Sharp, the House Whisperer, this morning at 9 on Kfi Am 640.
More stimulating talk.
This is KFI AM 640. I'm Oscar Ramirez, and you're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition. Now, tell me a little bit more about the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, because it's pretty interesting. I didn't really know much about it. It consists of 4 underground salt caverns along the Texas and Louisiana coast. There's a ton of barrels of oil in there, and then how they tap that oil is also pretty interesting. Tell us about it.
Well, there are about 600 million barrels of oil in the reserve right now. That's down from a peak of more than 700 million, because our government philosophy on how to use this reserve has changed a lot over time. In the beginning, it was created by Congress, or established by Congress in the 1970s, as basically an emergency supply. That was right after the Arab oil embargo, and there was a lot of concern about the increasing reliance of the country on exports. But as you and I'm sure your listeners know, there's been quite the increase in U.S. domestic oil production just over the past decade. And so as U.S. oil production has climbed, political leaders don't see the necessity to have such a large emergency reserve on hand. And a few times in recent years, the U.S. Congress has passed it, basically as a piggy bank. This by far would be the largest effort to tap into that oil, but there have been 7 sales just in about the past 4 years alone, as Congress has looked to pay for things like tax cuts and other major spending initiatives. So, we've seen more pressure, and the Obama administration did it too, to try to use this oil to help U.S. consumers when political leaders are sensing a need for it, or just when they have other issues they want to raise money for.
But as you've been saying, right, will it actually work? That has yet to be seen. It's going to take some time to actually get that oil out. It could take as long as 2 weeks before it hits the market. So this is kind of something that could work in the short term. In the long term, it might not be as good. But even still, as I mentioned, it could take about 2 weeks. They have to pump water down in the bottom of the cylinders that they have there. It forces the oil upwards. All of this process is going to take some time.
Well, there's even more process than that. I mean, what you're describing is actually the physical process of getting oil up out of the ground. That'll take a couple weeks. But it's going to be a couple weeks even before that, before the U.S. government has the sale. They have to do a bid process first. Buyers have to figure out if they're interested. And then even beyond, now we're talking about pretty much a month-long process. Even beyond that, then it takes time for oil to get transported from place to place, for it to get processed into gasoline, and for that gasoline to reach consumers. So we're talking many weeks, if not a couple months in all, before this oil starts to get out there. And that's been one of the concerns. Oil prices on the futures market have already started to come down in the past 4 or 5 weeks. But even that does not necessarily mean an immediate benefit to consumers. There's that whole process of transport and refining that I mentioned. And so it's the consumers, that's the problem. It's the consumers that matter to the Biden administration. We're heading into the holiday travel season. It's one of the busiest travel seasons of the year. People are driving all over the place. And there are potential political ramifications if people can't afford to get where they want to go, or if they're feeling like their pocketbooks are getting hit by rising costs and the president isn't doing anything about it.
Tim Pucco, energy policy reporter at the Wall Street Journal. Thank you very much for joining us.
Sure, thank you so much for having me.
This past week, we saw the Bay Area and Los Angeles be hit with a spat of flash mob-style robberies, targeting luxury retail stores, jewelry stores, and even some marijuana dispensaries. It underscores a huge challenge that law enforcement has, and many also point to Proposition 47, which reduced some property crimes to misdemeanors in California. They say this could be a big driver of all this. For more on these robberies, we'll speak to Rachel Swan, reporter at the San Francisco Chronicle.
So we actually saw something really similar last year in 2020, and that was definitely in the Bay Area. Can't speak for other parts of the country, but that was like right during, the end of May, early June, around the time of the social unrest, that we were seeing, we did see some of these like caravans of cars traveling around the Bay Area and hitting up, car dealerships in San Leandro, Westfield Mall in San Francisco, department stores. You know, so we've seen some of this before, but it just seems to have reached kind of a tipping point in the Bay Area. And it's just something that's really hard for law enforcement to quell for a variety of reasons. I mean, many are obvious, like just the sheer number of people running into a location, like swarming a location at one time. It's just completely, it's more than police officers can handle. It's these crowds of people, they coordinate on social media, they move together, they move fast. It's hard for police to quickly develop what they call situational awareness and gather intelligence on these flash mobs. And yeah, it just gets out of control really quickly, and then they flee very quickly.
Yeah, and that's the other part of it, right? It's an organized effort. There's people waiting in cars outside so they can get away. Police have said that they do have intelligence, right? That these are multiple groups that are coordinating often on social media. They'll identify a place beforehand, and then if they see police presence, they can pivot really quickly and target somewhere else. So to your point, that's why it's really difficult to nail them all down. And then what happens after that is they resell this stuff. They'll go onto online marketplaces. Sometimes they'll just sell it in the street. Sometimes it ends up overseas. So these are all the things that happen after they've been stolen.
Yeah, this is what I'm hearing from law enforcement is that, like, part of what's enabling this whole trend is the fencing operations, you know, and a lot of that has now moved online, but traditionally, you know, in San Francisco, obviously, we've seen it even on particular street intersections. You see people sell to flea markets, but there are whole distribution networks that these events are theoretically supplying.
Governor Gavin Newsom has spoken out about all of this stuff and said, you know, he has no empathy for these folks. They must be held to account. He said that there's going to be more CHP patrolling in these areas, and you'll see a greater police presence, hopefully, to deter some of this. But as I mentioned, what's going on in California, there was something passed called Proposition 47, and a lot of people are pointing to this, where it changed, you know, how people could be charged. In a lot of these cases, if you're caught with something under $950, it's not a felony or anything, it's just a misdemeanor. So a lot of people say that emboldens these people to do it, and then on the prosecutor side, you know, a lot of times maybe they don't even pursue some of this stuff.
It's really hard to say. I mean, your description of Prop 47 is exactly right. It sets the threshold at $950 for most thefts. You know, I've looked at charging documents where it was someone, for instance, there's a case in San Francisco very recent of someone who stole like 100 times from a Target store or something, just like went in, stole, went out, and you look at the charges and it's all misdemeanors. It's all misdemeanors
right.
Because of the law. So it's interesting that, you know, that's something that was passed by voters, but it's become extremely contentious over the years. It's hard to say to what degree this particular trend is triggered by Prop 47, because my understanding is that overall theft has actually gone down, but definitely having these kinds of flash mobs in the spotlight has brought the conversation about Prop 47 to the forefront.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you're talking about enforcement, you're talking about, as Governor Gavin Newsom said, hold these people to account. They're limited a lot of times, right? And if you think about it too, right, these big organized things, as it was in the case in the Bay Area at that Nordstrom, 80 people go in. Everybody's going to grab some stuff, maybe not a complete 950, but between everybody, it amounts to something else. So yeah, there's a lot of difficulties with all of this, and you know, hopefully we don't see more of it. But you know, we're heading into the holidays. People are out shopping. People are wearing masks. That anonymity thing is pretty easy right now. So it's a tough situation, as you mentioned. Just a particular challenge for law enforcement who are scrambling just to keep up. Rachel Swan, reporter at the San Francisco Chronicle. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
You're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition on KFI AM 640 and everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. I'll be back with some more top stories from the week, but first, let's get an update from the KFI newsroom.
KFI, news on the hour, on the half, and when it breaks.
I'm Brian Bruman from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. A security guard in the Bay Area hired to protect news crews reporting in the field has died from a gunshot during a robbery. The news crew he was a part of was reporting on a smash-and-grab robbery at a clothing store in Oakland when someone tried to steal the camera equipment and shot him. Groups of thieves have been stealing from high-end stores across the state. The 89th annual Hollywood Christmas Parade is ready to bring some holiday cheer to Tinseltown. The parade was canceled last year because of the pandemic, but organizers say this year's event will be better than ever. The holiday parade will take over Hollywood and Sunset Boulevards tonight with massive balloons, floats, bands, and of course, an appearance from Santa Claus. The parade starts at 6 p.m. SoCal weather from KFI, sunny by the afternoon, low 70s at the beaches, upper 60s to low 80s in Metro LA and OC with some light winds, low to mid 80s in the inland valleys, upper 60s to mid 70s in the inland empire. We lead local from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Brian Bruman.
Checking KFI traffic, we do have a crash in Pomona on the 10 westbound of Light Avenue. That's blocking the carpool and the left lane. Traffic is backed up to Orange Grove. To Atwater Village on the 5 northbound of Glendale Boulevard, a crash has the 3 left lanes blocked. Traffic is backed up to the 2 freeway. And to Diamond Bar on the 60 eastbound of Phillips Ranch Road, a crash has the carpool and the 2 left lanes blocked. KFI in the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Jonathan Weiss.
Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year. It's amazing because Discover is accepted at 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yeah. 2021 Nielsen Report limitations apply.
In the Army National Guard, family means everything.
Our parents, they were really supportive that all 5 of us would join. I got my education because of the Guard. I got to travel a little bit and experience a whole different culture. It helped me get my job, helped me pay for my house.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard instills pride that you and your family will share. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service. Sponsored by the California Army National Guard. Aired by the California Broadcasters Association and this station.
1-877 Cards for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids.
Donate your car today with 1-877 Cars for Kids. We're a recognized 501c3 charity organization, so you'll receive a maximum tax deduction. What's more, you'll receive a vacation voucher of 3 days and 2 nights. Also on the web at carsforkids.com.
1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Hurry! It's your last chance to donate for 2021.
Walgreens is making Medicare easier than ever with the new FindRx coverage tool. Compare plans online, over the phone, or in person for free. Find the plan that's right for you, plus low-cost copays by visiting walgreens.com/Medicare.
Radio advertising can connect your business with holiday shoppers wherever they go. Use iHeart Ad Builder to create an affordable custom radio ad right on your phone. Just click, listen, approve, then hear it on the radio. Create your customized ad today at iHeartAdBuilder.com.
If you love trivia, if you love the hugely popular Stuff You Should Know podcast, then the Trivial Pursuit game, Stuff You Should Know edition is for you. With 600 questions, weird and unbelievable trivia in categories like myths, legends, and conspiracies. SYSK selects a mix of topics handpicked by podcast hosts Josh and Chuck. Give the gift of trivia this holiday. Find Trivial Pursuit, the Stuff You Should Know edition at your favorite retailer or wherever you shop for board games.
Help us provide more than 25,000 meals a week to kids in Southern California. Stop into any Smart and Final location to donate to the KFI Talk-a-thon. KFI AM 640. More stimulating talk.
This is KFI AM 640, heard everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. I'm Oscar Ramirez, and you're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition. I know Thanksgiving is over, but I still want to take a little time to talk about our favorite foods. We're going to go over the official Thanksgiving food power rankings. We'll speak to Lucas Quan Peterson, food columnist at the LA Times, for his take on where all your favorite Thanksgiving foods rank. A little preview of what you're in for. Turkey ranks dead last in this list. Pumpkin pie doesn't fare much better either. And cranberries could just be the most controversial food item. But which one will be on top?
Everyone has opinions on what Thanksgiving foods are great. We're all packed around a tiny table crammed with different dishes that different people have made, and we're having to field passive-aggressive comments from our aunts and uncles and cousins. And what better way to talk about what foods suck? And the number one food that really sucks is turkey. I'm sorry to say it. People don't know how to cook it. They put the whole bird in the oven, so the white meat and the dark meat don't get cooked evenly. The white meat usually ends up bone dry, like you just got cotton balls in your mouth. And let's face it, when you're making your Thanksgiving plate, how much turkey do you actually put on there? No. Where it's at is the sides. So turkey is at the bottom of my list.
Yeah, I have to really agree with you. In your article, one very effective question: how often do you see it on menus in sit-down restaurants relative to other proteins? And it's not very often. So I have to agree with you there. I do get some. It's almost a courtesy that you get the turkey and you put some on your plate, maybe put some gravy on it to help. But you're right, turkey ends up being one of those things that's just really tough to handle. It's such a big bird a lot of times when you're trying to feed a big family, and you're right, the uneven cooking really brings it down. Number 19 on your list, very low on the list, is pumpkin pie.
I think you're either team pumpkin pie or not.
Yeah.
It's never really appealed to me. You kind of eat it once a year. It feels like an obligation rather than something you actually enjoy eating. And frankly, the texture of it, as I said, and the appearance of it, it kind of looks like dog poop. Sorry to say it, but it kind of does. And it's really not appetizing.
Number 17, cranberries, because cranberries shows up twice on the list. Number 17, and then way up at the top, number 5, canned. So let's talk about cranberries fresh and canned.
I really would like us to show some love for the canned cranberries. I think they're delicious. You get that kind of satisfying plop on the plate as you're opening up that ocean spray can, kind of makes that satisfying moist, wet sound, just like a can of dog food, like you're putting it in the dish. And then it's got the dimples around the edge. And I just like that. I just like the tanginess and like the denseness of it. It kind of reminds me of like eating a fruit roll-up or like a fruit snack.
I know that one definitely could cause some problems in the family. My family usually does a little bit of both. So we'll do the canned and we'll do some fresh for those that want it.
I think if you can prepare the fresh cranberries well, then those can be good. But I think, again, most people just don't know really how to cook those properly. And why not just go with what you know is going to be good, and that's the canned cranberries.
Number 16 on the list is sweet potato casserole. I know a lot of people love this. This is kind of one of those other ones where you either really love it or you really hate it. A lot of times it comes with marshmallows on top. I prefer the way my grandma makes it. She makes it with like piloncillo, which is just like this nice little soupy kind of caramelly broth that she cooks the sweet potatoes in, and it's tasty just as is, no marshmallow.
Sweet potatoes, again, it's you like it or you don't. Like sweet potato fries, I don't like. It's just something about the sweetness of the flavor, or the texture. I would much rather be eating mashed potatoes. It's nice when you have the torched marshmallow on top or the piloncillo, as you were saying. But yeah, it's just kind of not my thing.
13, we have pecan pie. Number 12, Brussels sprouts. Now, I love Brussels sprouts. Gotta have a little bit of bacon on them. But I like the line that you wrote here. Be careful not to overcook them because they'll smell like farts. And I have to agree with that one.
We all hated Brussels sprouts growing up as a kid, but now they've become a super trendy thing to have on restaurants, and they're really delicious if they're cooked properly. So that's the trick. You just got to cook them right.
All right, let's get into the top part of the list. Number 10 is roll or biscuits. And I got to say, that's one of my favorite parts. For me, it's got to be King's Hawaiian rolls with a little bit of butter on them.
Some people will sort of ride or die with biscuits, which I totally understand and respect. But what's good about rolls is that it's great for them making a sandwich with the leftovers the next day.
Yeah.
But biscuits are good too, but you really have to know how to make them. You can't use bread flour. You can't use like a hard wheat flour. You have to use like a soft wheat. Most people don't know that, and they end up making hockey puck biscuits. So rolls are definitely the safer choice.
That's why we cut to the chase, like I said, and just use those King's Hawaiian. Okay, number 9 on this list, green bean casserole. I'd rather just have some green beans with a little bit of salt and pepper on them, nothing else. But I know this is a staple of a lot of families.
I think if you grew up eating it, I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up outside of the city of Chicago. And so, Midwesterners have a thing about casseroles. We have a thing about canned soup going into a casserole dish and making a hot dish, making tuna noodle casserole, green bean casserole. Green bean casserole, interestingly, was invented by the Campbell Soup Company. And so you get that cream of mushroom soup. I mean, yeah, it's pretty heavy. It's pretty sickening, frankly, if you're not really used to eating it. But again, it's just nostalgia. And you get the crunchy fried onions on top. So for me, it's a must-have.
Number 6 on this list is ham. Now that one is kind of in direct contrast to the turkey. A lot of people do love it though.
Who doesn't like a nice ham? I'd like to see more ham. I think some people sort of had an issue with me putting it as a Thanksgiving food and not as a Christmas food, though I tend to think of it as just a holiday thing that people eat on Christmas or Thanksgiving. You get a nice maple glazed ham, honey glazed ham. It's hard to say that ham is underrated, but I think as a holiday dish, I'd much rather see a ham on the table than turkey because I think it's a little bit easier to cook and it's probably going to taste a little bit better.
Okay, number 5 on this list is cranberries. We already talked about that. Number 4, cornbread. What are your thoughts on cornbread?
Cornbread is one of the few perfect things in life. I mean, like anything, you have to make it well, but it's just a fantastic side dish. It goes with anything. It's a little nutty. It's got great texture. It's a little bit sweet. Put a little bit of whipped honey butter on it. It's really a fantastic thing just to have on the Thanksgiving table.
Number 3 is broccoli gratin. Now, this is one that I, in my own personal experience, have not really eaten too much. I've had it in different forms throughout my life, obviously, but not for Thanksgiving usually.
A lot of people hate it. It's another casserole, so it's like broccoli and cheddar cheese and breadcrumbs. So again, the Midwesterner in me just has a very soft spot in my heart for the broccoli gratin casserole. Some people don't like it, but they're wrong. Broccoli gratin is delicious and should be served at every Thanksgiving.
All right, we're getting to the top 2 here. Number 2 is mashed potatoes and gravy. I love them. I always go back for seconds on this one. It's pretty hard to mess up, really, mashed potatoes.
Could you imagine going to Thanksgiving dinner, there's no mashed potatoes and gravy? You would turn around and you would walk out the door. Everyone loves potatoes. People have different techniques. You can do skin on, you can do no skin. I prefer no skin, but I think there's never really a problem with mashed potatoes. And then the great thing about the gravy, no matter how you make the gravy, if you like to do it with the giblets, no matter how you like to make it, you pour that gravy over your entire plate. It just kind of lubricates the whole meal. And who doesn't like mashed potatoes?
All right, and the number 1 Thanksgiving food, and I will gladly agree to this one, it's stuffing. It's so good. It's got tons of flavor in it. It's bread. It is one of the top Thanksgiving foods for sure.
Absolutely. Who doesn't like delicious, seasoned, stale bread? Who doesn't like that baked in the oven? You get those nice crispy edges. Tastes like onions and parsley and sage. It's delicious. You can make stuffing a million different ways. You can make it with cornbread. You can make it with regular bread. You can make it with pretzels. You can make it with crumbled up bits of old bagels. There's any number of ways under the sun to make stuffing. I really do like the recipe in the old Vincent Price cookbook. Vincent Price, who did horror movies and did the scary voiceover for the Thriller video. But I just love stuffing. It's really fantastic.
Are you a stuffing inside the bird or outside the bird?
I'm definitely inside the bird.
Yes, thank you.
And it's frankly the one good thing about turkey is to impart flavor into the stuffing. It's really sort of its only use. But yeah, you got to have stuffing.
Lucas Quan Peterson, food columnist at the LA Times. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
You're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition on KFI AM 640. When we come back, we'll tell you how things like video game consoles, liquor, and chicken tenders are being affected by backlogs and rising prices.
Sometimes, love can be deadly. The Crazy in Love podcast digs into real-life stories of relationships that took a gruesome turn. Each week, explore a new case about murder in the name of love.
She was obsessed. She was a stalker. She wouldn't take no for an answer.
Overkill is an outward manifestation, the highest level of anger a human being can actually achieve.
Listen to Crazy in Love on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo.
Ready to trade in your old car? Then download the Roto app. That's R-O-D-O. Roto will buy your car and give you the cash you need to buy your next car today. You don't even need to leave your house. It's all done online. Roto will even deliver your new car and take your old car away free of charge. So what are you waiting for? Download the Roto app now or check out roto.com. That's R-O-D-O, the fastest and easiest way to sell your car.
At Uline, the prevailing opinion is, if you don't live it, you don't believe it. The people at Uline believe in hard work, and they live it by being there 24/7 to answer your call, having 38,000 items in stock, and offering same-day shipping from 12 locations across North America. Business owners, sellers, buyers, shippers, and packers believe it. Uline is the hard-working, dependable source for your shipping and industrial supplies. Visit uline.com.
There are still a lot of questions about vaccinating children against COVID-19. We sat down with Dr. Kenneth Alexander, Chief of Infectious Diseases at Nemours Children's Hospital in Florida, to talk about what potential side effects parents can expect their kids to experience after getting the vaccine.
So what we're seeing in kids is exactly what we've been seeing in everybody else. Number one, it gives you a sore arm. And again, that's not altogether surprising. It's a shot. The other things that we see, sometimes kids will run a low-grade fever. They'll feel kind of yucky for a day, just like the rest of us did. One of the things we want to think about is that sort of lousy feeling is the feeling of your immune system mounting a response. So it's kind of like that old song, Hurts So Good, right? That's the feeling of your immune system doing what it should be doing.
iHeartRadio will continue to keep you informed with the latest coronavirus news. For continuous updates and to find a COVID-19 vaccine near you, check out vaccines.gov.
I had 3 cousins pass away from COVID-19. One of them I was very close with. This guy taught me how to get on the line as a football player. What I think people risk for not getting vaccinated is death, whether it's their own life or the people that are around. Take it from me, the vaccine saves lives. Find a vaccine near you at myturn.ca.gov. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
What was that thing you told me today? That there's enough fentanyl to kill every single American?
I just read that. It's on the break.
I should get the right to take one nap per show.
I just blow a whistle and then I go on.
You should hear the air sucking that goes on usually during commercial breaks. It's like all the room's oxygen disappears.
John and Ken, weekdays 2 to 6 on KFI.
These documents were obtained by the Wall Street Journal. They use the Freedom of Information Act. You would think that some of the other media here in California should have done the same thing. You have to fill out some paperwork, and they didn't bother. No, there's nobody looking out for you in Southern California, except us.
John and Ken.
Nobody.
Weekdays 2 to 6 on KFI.
Anybody caught creating a robocall and convicted, it should be the death penalty. It's that simple.
I'm okay with that.
No kidding, we all are.
Bill Handel.
Robocalls.
Mornings from 6 to 10 on KFI.
It's share and tell. Share and tell.
I love it.
Like share with everybody.
I got it.
How about share and tell you?
The Tim Conway Jr. Show.
Oh, that I like.
Weeknights at 6 on KFI.
I know the weight of the world seems to rest on your shoulders, and sometimes life seems like it's filled only with confusion and chaos. But I assure you, I have a plan for you.
The Jesus Christ Show. This morning at 6 on KFI AM 640.
More stimulating talk.
This is KFI AM 640, heard everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. I'm Oscar Ramirez, and you're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition. Finally, for this week, we'll talk about the snowball effect in the supply chain and how it's raising prices and making it harder to get some of the items that you want. The biggest challenge that beer and liquor makers are facing is obtaining glass bottles. America loves their chicken tenders, and prices have jumped because of delays at meat processing plants, and specifically in Tyson Foods' case, they chose a bad rooster. Medical equipment, toys, video game consoles, and even your favorite athleisure wear are all facing setbacks. For a look at some specific items hurt by backlogs and rising prices, we'll speak to Phil McCausland, reporter at NBC News.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very interesting project, I mean, for me too, just to see where everything is being held up at. But yeah, I mean, I thought, I've been talking to my bartender, I've been talking to the guy at the liquor store, and I mean, they've been seeing it for a while, so I thought that's a good place to start. So, reached out to some beer makers who I happen to like that one in Burlington, and really kind of tried to dive in with them about where are you guys seeing the pain most? And that's where it came out where, yeah, they're having issues with getting carbon dioxide, machine parts, aluminum for cans. They're starting to warehouse a lot of items. So the common denominator from beer, liquor, and to wine is really that issue with obtaining glass. And I think, especially with these upscale beers, the wines, and the liquor, you're seeing, these really kind of specialty glass bottles. Talking to the head of glass manufacturing, or a guy who kind of leads glass manufacturing in the United States, he said, we're really pumping out glass domestically, but they have just a kind of a standard bottle that they're making. The specialty glass that our alcohol makers need are usually coming from overseas and aren't being made as readily and are harder to obtain.
And it's tied to their brand identity, which I like that you put that in the article because that's so true, right? Everybody wants to stand out. So it's not like one of these manufacturers can just switch to these generic bottles. They have to stick with what they got. And if they don't, let's say they do switch, it changes everything. It changes the labels that you got to put on these bottles. Everything needs to be adjusted down the line if something as major as the bottle.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we don't necessarily realize is that when you start selling booze, you have to get the label approved by the government in many points. And, it just becomes a real issue when you start making changes. It becomes, as one winemaker said, a real snowball effect of other issues that you then run into. So changing your brand identity, I mean, imagine Grey Goose saying, we're going to change to a smaller bottle or a standard bottle. Those bottles are iconic, right? And that's how, consumers connect with them.
Let's talk about chicken tenders because I thought this one was so interesting, right? America loves their chicken tenders. Earlier in the pandemic, we were seeing shortages of even chicken wings. But this one right here, tenders, this is has a lot to do with the meat packing plants, labor shortages that are there. But beyond that, there's all sorts of things that are affected.
I thought chicken tenders was great because everyone loves chicken tenders. But I mean, the price of chicken overall has gone up. But chicken tenders, I think, is really kind of a bit of Americana in a way. And I mean, we're seeing chicken tender prices at all-time highs. And yeah, you're seeing it really at the processing. And as meat processing, especially in chicken, has become more vertically integrated, these companies also have oversight of chicken production as well. So one of the major issues that I thought was really, really fascinating is that Tyson Chicken, which is one of the largest chicken producers in the world, noted that they changed out the male rooster that they were using, and suddenly they realized that they were having major issues